and has finally now in 2025, in which year are we in? 2026. Alright, hi everybody, welcome to an episode of Real Estate Investments. Today we are talking about an extremely interesting phenomenon, the first mover advantage, question mark. Now, what does the first mover advantage mean, and is it an overused term in land-scarce Singapore where there has already been so much development? Can we still say that there remains a first mover advantage for anybody? Now, let's look at the most recent latest township example, the case study of Lentor. Now, this was the URA master plan of Lentor previously, and looking at what we always call the tortoise shell kind of developments that happen in Lentor. So if you were to look at exactly what happened in the Lentor precinct, it used to be this empty plot of land, right? It was slated for residential development, but really there was not much kind of activities happening. And since the years of 2021, we saw the plots of land being developed and launched. And if we were to study this entire plot and also the average PSF during the launch period, you will realize that naturally the PSF actually follows the date in which the project is launched. Of course, the different projects have different merits. Some are mixed development, some are closer to MRTs. Naturally, you will see that land prices, the prices in which developers buy in at, the launch prices, and the prices that is accepted by the public during their launch will naturally follow a gradual uphill curve. So looking at this Lentor Township case study, it actually follows a very simple kind of human psychology, which is that, for example, if you are a seller today and you have sold your property at a certain price, for example, $1 million, as the next seller in the same project, you are not going to want to sell at the same price. You're going to look at the same price or higher. Now, conversely, and naturally, when we look at the buying process, which is that if somebody has bought this at the start and they're buying in at, let's say, 2001 PSF, then naturally the next buyer that is coming in, they will have to pay that additional premium. So being a first mover means that you are the first person to enter into the area. But there's so much more to unpack about the first mover's advantage. We even have come up with our own equation. So watch out for this episode if you want to find out more. Now, of course, looking at Lentor Modern, we are looking at 100% profitable growth. Lentor Modern has already entered the sub-sale market, and owners are doing at an average of 4% per annum growth. Today, we want to talk about something super interesting. This is a next plot of land, and could it potentially be the next what we call first mover's advantage? Why do we say that now? 9 bidders, the first non-landed residential in this area in the past 33 years, and the first of potentially the next 15,000 to 20,000 units. This is a plot of land that, if you can see, was slated and subjected to planning initially. And finally now in year 2026, we are looking at these different developments being launched. So what is this? This is actually the GLS land plot for Dunearn Road, and it has been awarded at a PSF per plot ratio of 1,410 to Fraser's Property, Sekisui House, as well as CSE Land Group, are the same developers behind Robertson Opus, the Ori, One Holland Village, Alta, and so many more. So in today's episode, we will discuss the phenomenon of the first mover's advantage, specifically what is the equation that makes it an advantage, as well as secondly, looking at 3 techniques to analyze value, both present and future. Because as property investors in Singapore, we all want to safeguard our investments. All right, so my teammate and I, we have served 93 families in the past couple of years. We've been in the industry respectively for about 5 to 7 years each, and we would love to bring everything that we have known about the market, everything that we have analyzed, and share all of these insights with you, not only in this episode, but also in person. While every reasonable cost has been taken to ensure that there's accuracy in the information here, of course, a lot of things about new launches are only subjected to developer's approval later on. And if you were to take any actions, we will advise you to reach out to your banker, to your financial consultant, as well as your real estate consultant to really journey with you through this process. How do I know that I'm actually enjoying the first mover's advantage, and what does this even mean? If we were to look at the first mover's advantage, and if you were to just ask ChatGPT will say, okay, first mover's advantage in simple terms is basically being one of the first buyers to buy into an area before it becomes popular or fully developed. This is like a two-part statement, right? If we are just the first to enter an area, that doesn't necessarily mean that we will profit from it. Sometimes being the first, you can also be the biggest loser, right? Or buy into an area that has no growth. So for us, the first mover advantage basically means that not only do I have to be the first or one of the first, there has to be a promise or a later investment of resources leading in increase to demand and leading to a subsequent increase in value. Let's look at demand firstly. How do we know that this is a high demand area? How do we know if eventually this is an area that is going to receive investment, is people are going to be looking into it? Value is always correlated to demand. And when we look at demand, we think that at the new, so when we buy a subsale, we think that, we are the first buyers of this condo. But actually there were buyers before that, right? The buyers who bought at launch. But did you know that there are also a group of buyers that are before launch, and we call these buyers the developers? So for this particular Dunearn House GLS, this Dunearn Road GLS land tender, basically there were already 9 buyers for it. And the average kind of GLS buyers is ranging between maybe about 4 to 6. But Dunearn Road received about 9 bidders. And these bidders can be considered your first buyers, reflecting the confidence in the market, right? But that's not enough. It is not enough to just look at demand. We also want to look at, is there going to be a future investment, which is a kind of like promise of whether there will be attention and growth in this area. So firstly, let's look at the investment of resources, which is really where is the government placing their focus and their resources. The URA master plan is basically where Singapore government does its urban planning. And looking at urban planning, you will know where is the government intending to build your live and play hubs. In the recent years, there has been a great decentralization where a lot of your hubs are no longer in the city centre but decentralized across the rest of Singapore. Now, looking at the Turf City Rejuvenation Plan, what is interesting is that this is not a plan that was derived yesterday, a few months ago, or a few years ago. It's actually a plan that has been slated since 1998. And now we can see that there are several plots of land here. There are going to be mixed commercial and residential plots. There are also, we believe, going to be upcoming BTO plots in this area. This rejuvenation is going to be extremely exciting, especially for anybody that is a fan of the CCR area. The Turf City area especially is known for its serenity, it's known for its exclusivity, so that's definitely an extremely exciting thing. We won't go into detail of all of this, but if you were to really look at it, this Turf City area and also Dunearn House, this entire area, connectivity is definitely one in terms of MRT stations. Number 2, we are also looking at a lot of nature parks, so we are near to what we call the green lungs of Singapore, MacRitchie Reservoir, and you're also connected via a lot of nature parks as well as a lot of park connectors. So if this suits your lifestyle, and especially if you are somebody that wants to be near the prestigious school belt, then this entire plot might be something that really interests you. All right, secondly, when we are looking at where is the government investing resources, we have to look at transport nodes. Transport nodes are basically things that connect us to the rest of the city. And definitely if we are living in an area, we want to be well connected, not only to amenities in the area, but also connected to the rest of Singapore. We are looking at the Cross Island Line Phase 2 to have a Turf City MRT station. But basically right now, for buyers who are living in the area, the slated Dunearn House is just a 4 minutes walk from 6th Avenue MRT, which is your blue line. So this is just an increased connectivity, giving you 2 MRT stops within walking distance. Okay, secondly, we are looking at, after an investment in resources, is there going to be a correlation with an investment in demand? Increase in demand, sorry. And a predictor of value increase is also future demand. We want to know that is there going to be demand in the future from real buyers, because this will form up your exit audience. Again, going back to developers and looking at, is this land plot going to be further developed? We can see that the plot of land actually right beside where we are has already been awarded at a 15% increase in price margin. So naturally, this means that the next plot of land, developers are going to increase their prices, and the next group of buyers are also going to be paying that premium, leading to a natural kind of increase in your exit price when you do choose to exit. The last thing we want to analyze is that, is there going to be an increase in value? Moving on to our part 2, the 3 techniques to analyze present and future value. We have come up with these 3 pillars. to basically analyze A, your buyer appetite, B, you're looking at the specific area, what is the true PSF lease comparison with comparable resales in the area, as well as C, what we have developed in our team called the Resilience Index, which is a scorecard for you to look at your property, a 32-factor scorecard. Firstly, let's talk about buyer appetite analysis. Okay, buyer appetite analysis can be broken down. There's also a lot of things within past, present, future, right? So looking at buyer appetite analysis, there are several factors to look at. We look at past transacted, current comparables, as well as upcoming. Past transacted tells us the buyer's acceptability to what is in the area, what buyers can accept, and what are the current transacted within the district, across the districts, and we compare this to give us an idea of what is the buyer's appetite in the current market. We look at current comparables between the resale and the new launches, having a healthy margin that we have set in our formula to know that you are not buying in at too high a price. And lastly, we also look at upcoming kind of pricing to look at what is the confidence level developers have. So we look at upcoming new launches, for example, and also even resale sellers in the market. So looking at past comparable GLS, why did we choose basically River Morden as an example? You can see that there's a $10 kind of difference in the PSF PPR between Dunearn Road as well as River Valley. And looking at the performance of River Valley, we can see that Guaco Land managed to sell 90% of River Morden on the first day, and specifically looking at the average PSF of 3,266 PSF. Now, what does this tell us? It basically is an indication of where is the market moving towards. Now, I think in the past, when we were to talk about 3,000 PSF or even 2008, 2005, even 2002, right? In the past few years, it would have been something like, why is it so expensive? But nowadays, I think when we talk about PSF hitting an average of 3,000, 3,002, nobody really bats an eyelid really anymore, right? Looking at the CCR new launch, we can also see that we are averaging around 3,264 PSF. Comparing to the RCR as well as the OCR, we can see that in the RCR area, the ORI has transacted at 2007 average PSF, and even Vela Bay has already reached a 2008 kind of PSF. Now, what does this mean? It means that buyers' acceptability or buyers' appetite in the market is going up. This also has to do with of course, the harmonization as well as the floor plans, very efficient floor plans by developers, kudos to them. And looking at the indicative price metric for Dunearn House, we are looking at estimated between 3,000 to 3,004 kind of PSF. So if you were to look at the 3,200 kind of PSF, we are looking at price ranges between 1.68 for your smallest two-bedder, all the way up to 2,007, 2,008 for your three-bedders, as well as 3.7, 3.8 for your four-bedders. These are just your starting price and your indicative prices, but I think what is going to be really interesting about Dunearn House that we want to look at is the different configurations as well as the unit mix. So this definitely begs a deeper study. In our one-to-one consultations, we do break down the different floor plans as well as the facings with our clients. Moving on, the second factor that we use to analyze value, present and future value, is basically the true PSF lease comparison method. Now we call this the TPLC. What is the TPLC? Basically, we pick up a couple of comparable resales. Of course, in this area, for some projects, we have a whole list of 15 to 20 comparable resales. In this area, because you are going to be one of the first of non-landed residential in this area, we have picked out a comparable resale, which is 4th Avenue Residences. Now, looking at 4th Avenue Residences, we take our TPLC method to reset the lease back to 99 years, and we also take a 6% margins to reset it back to post-harmonization values. Now, looking at this entire kind of transactions, we can see that after we reset and factor in GFA harmonization, the comparable resale in the area is at about 3,000 odd PSF as a comparable. So anything that for us is less than a 15% margin between the new launch pricing by the developers as well as the comparable resale is something that is definitely worthy of looking into. But honestly, to me, I think that for this particular project, if we were to just look at the comparable resale, we are comparing backwards, and also the upcoming plots, what are the PSF that it's going to be at? I think more worthy of examination, especially for something in this area which hasn't had much introduction of non-landed residentials. Interestingly, when we were studying the project, we found out that, okay, 4th Avenue Residences actually has non-profitable transactions as well. So 10 of these transactions are unprofitable, and we basically did deep dive to look into it and see, okay, why is the cause of it? And not every project is going to be profitable, right? Even when we see numbers such much as 80% sold, 90% sold, 78% sold. Just because there's buyer appetite, it doesn't mean that these projects will do well in the resale market. So we really want to study the difference between profitable as well as unprofitable transactions. And if we were to sort the biggest winners in the 4th Avenue by basically the annualized percentage growth, we can actually see that the top units that had the biggest growth is interestingly the stack that is facing the tennis court. Now, if we were to just go into booking day or preview day and we were just to pick the units based on our feelings, sometimes the tennis court can be something that is an undesirable trait, right? Near the tennis court because it is, for example, noisy, or they feel that it's not a desirable facing. And of course, when you just look at the floor plan itself, there are many more different kinds of facing. Now, why was it that stack 14 in particular was the biggest winner? It has also to do with entry price. So everything has to be analyzed on the day itself. It is not just the most ideal facing, it's not just the most ideal floor, it is sometimes also the price in which you enter, which we have to be extremely careful about, which our team has also developed our own formulas to basically see what is the safe pricing and what is a walk-away price. Finally, we also have the Resilience Index, which is basically a scorecard that we have, a 32-pointer scorecard that we have also placed this particular project into. Now, looking at our property resilience scorecard, we actually highlighted something that may be ringing some alarm bells for people who are looking to buy into Dunearn House. Now, what is it? Basically, one of the factors that we look into when we examine new launches is that, okay, are you a 99-year leasehold in a predominantly 99-year leasehold area? Are you a 99-year in a predominantly freehold area? Are you a freehold in a predominantly 99-year area, or are you a freehold in a freehold area? Now, of course, something for buyers to take note if you are looking at Dunearn House is that we are a 99-year entering into a predominantly freehold area, right? Of course, because of the mix of mostly landed, as well as this entire area, the CCR belt, traditionally have always been a freehold kind of area. Having this 99-year introduction, is this going to be something that you or your future buyers should be concerned about? I leave that up to you. Okay, now looking at Dunearn House, I won't go too much into specifics. Briefly, we can have a chat if you are keen to find out more. But basically, this is going to be an area where you can see basically your Bukit Timah Nature Reserve as well as your Macritchie Reservoir. So you are surrounded by a lot of green spaces, a lot of green, the railroads as well. MRT station is right along here, King Albert Park, 6th Avenue MRT just 4 minutes away, leading you down all the way to Botanics and the rest of the Blue Line. We are also near your Beauty World area. We are also near a lot of prestigious schools, be it in primary, secondary, as well as tertiary. Anyone that loves this area, you should be extremely familiar with this already. Looking at the project facts, so basically your site area plot is going to be 145,000 square feet, plot ratio of 2.4. So we consider this a pretty kind of not a very dense project. Later, I'll show you the architect impressions of it, the artist impressions. You will have 2 blocks of 19 stories as well as 3 blocks of 10 stories. So this means that we'll have 5 blocks across, varying in different levels and heights. 1 basement car park, swimming pool, 380 exclusive units. Actually a very healthy number. It's not too big, not too small. So leasehold is 99 years. Take note that your lease has already started September last year. Looking at the bedroom unit type, we have 2, 3, 4 bedders. There will be no 1 bedders in this project. Half of the project is basically predominantly made out of 2 bedroom and 2+ studies, which is common with, I think, what the social trends are moving towards, smaller family types, but also because this is in an area where we may be looking at landed downgraders as well as future HDB upgraders. We can see that developers have also included a fair mix of 3 and 4 bedders. Definitely very strategic not to have 1 bedder unit types here. These are a couple of things we already talked about. You will be elevated above the GCB enclaves, so I think that's going to be fantastic for anybody that you love an unblocked view, you like quiet, serene area. We have already seen a preview of the floor plans, very efficient kind of squarish layouts. I think a lot of young families, family types will love. Artist impressions, so I think it's going to be this very classy kind of dark modern feel and vibe surrounded by a lot of greenery. This is your level 19 panoramic view, what it will look like. Basically, you can see there's really not many high-rise buildings in the area. Prestigious school belts, we have estimated that it may likely be within 1 km to Methodist Girls' School, but of course this is not a guarantee. We always know to wait until further notice from statutory boards. And if you would like to find out more about basically Dunearn House, would like to speak to our team on your property investment, then you can click the link below to contact us via our WhatsApp. Basically, in the 45 minutes consultation that we have with you, what we want to do is to really deep dive into your personal tailored finances, your personal property growth. We see real estate as a long journey, right? It's not just going to be it could be your first investment, second investment, but we see this as a step into your asset progression and your wealth growth. So if you are keen, we want to look at whichever properties that you are entering in, does it have what we call a structural resilience and not just buying into hype at any point in time. So if you're keen to speak to our team, then do click the link down below. Our team will connect with you via WhatsApp and then we can meet up for a 45 minutes consultation. Now, if you do like this video, you found that it has brought you value, it has given you an insight into the real estate market, we will be looking to publish more videos dissecting and analyzing different trends and different things that are happening in the real estate space. My name is Grayce. If you would like to find out more, like, subscribe so we can stay connected. I'll see you. Bye.